Hello, everyone. We'd like to welcome everybody back to the Ross Valley School Board of Trustees regular meeting. To state a clarification, we had some technical difficulties with the microphone when we started our meeting today. And I wanted you to know a couple things in regard to that. Our board president, Shelley Hamilton, is out currently tonight. I am the board clerk, and therefore I will be making the meeting move nice and smooth so everybody understands everything. It's going to be a great meeting. We did start our closed session. We did start our meeting tonight at 6:04, and then we came out of closed session at about 7 o'clock. So right now, I would like to bring in one of our people here who is the oldest of all of the children here today. What grade?
Fifth grade.
You're fifth grade?
Yeah.
Okay, who's older?
I do.
Okay, you get the first opportunity to open the meeting. If you would like to come up and take this gavel, you can bang this on the table one time. First of all, what's your name?
Willow.
Willow, I'm Ryan. Nice to meet you too. If you could bang that once on the table,
Just here?
anywhere you see fit, my dear. Okay, thank you very much. That's how we do it with that. We are going to reconvene the open session of our meeting at 7:06 p.m. And Willow was in charge of the gavel. Willow, what's your friend's name?
Allie.
Allie, do you know the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes.
Do you think that you can lead all of us in the Pledge of Allegiance today?
Sure.
Okay, why don't we all stand up, find the flag over here, put your hand over your heart, and follow Allie.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. We are on a roll. So trustees, do you have any questions about tonight's agenda, time allocations? Anything like that? And if not, do I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion by Wesley, a second from Marie. Wesley?
Aye.
Marie?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Ryan? Aye. So that's how we do things around here. So next, we will go to the student presentation. And this is also very, 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 very exciting. It's for me as a trustee, and I think I speak for everybody up here. It's really exciting to see people and people that you are actually doing the work for. And you all here are most likely all the reason that we do what we do for you and for ourselves and for our community. So it's really nice in our second meeting ever back since COVID in person. It's also especially nice to have the personal touch to the meetings. And it allows a reminder, I think, for most of us, and certainly for me, of why I do this work and why we do this work. And it's really for you and the community. So thank you for taking some time today to show. So we're pleased once again to have our spotlight on our schools. And this is our first since the pandemic began over 18 months ago. Tonight's presentation is from Wade Thomas and is on their Schoolwide Social Emotional Program highlighting mindfulness. And with that, we have Principal Julie Harris here this evening with some Wade Thomas students and staff. Julie, how would you like to take this? Any way you like. And if you could also make sure that you introduce the students that didn't get to be introduced yet and any parents or siblings that came with you, that's also welcome too.
Absolutely, we'll do that. So why don't we have our students stand up and come on up here. And remember how we talked about we're going to kind of stand, face the board. Just keep it right there. All these fun people. Come here, though. So this is Ryan and Adele from first grade, and then we have Cadence and Louie from fourth grade right over here. This. And then we have Colin in third grade. We're going to see if we can make it so everyone can see everyone. Wow. And we've got Miss Allie and Miss Willow over here from fifth grade. And Wade Thomas. And do you want to say who you brought with you in terms of a parent today or a family member? Do you remember who brought you here? What's her name? Do you remember? Yeah, I know. Do you want to say it out loud? Mom Erin. We've got Mom Erin.
Yay! Hi.
I know it. Do you know it? Yep, it's Marjorie. You want to tell them it's Marjorie?
Marjorie?
Marjorie.
Hi.
Hey, Marjorie.
Hi, Marjorie.
Tell them nice and loud.
My mom, Felicia.
Okay,
Hello.
nice to meet you.
Say who you brought. Who brought you? Never heard of you. Erin.
Okay, wait.
Yep.
My mom, Joelle.
My mom's Joelle.
Oh, hey, Miss Hart. Hello.
My mom, Nicole.
Nice.
Hello.
I brought my dad, Tom.
Thank
Nice to meet
you.
you, Tom.
Thanks for bringing them.
And we also brought with us Nicole Stewart, teacher. Marjorie happens to be our school psychologist, who's joining us, and Felicia, and our mindfulness coach, Miss Jen Couture, as well. And we are here to talk with you about our school-wide SCL program and mindfulness. And I think I can have this. Let's see if it works. Look at that. So we're here to tell you today about our SCL program. And of course, we want you to know, because you're the board, that it's founded on the core competencies or the standards. So we're not just making this up. And the standards are used all throughout all of the schools here in Ross Valley as well. And you can see it's self-management, self-awareness, responsible decision-making, relationship, and social awareness. And those are all obviously really good skills for our students and also for adults. So we need them as we go up and we move forward. And we take a little bit of an interesting slant on it, and that is that we try to use common school-wide language and tools and strategies. Let's see if I can get it all the way from here. Maybe not true, so let's see. Do you have the magic touch over there? Anyways, if you don't, we can keep going stuck. We got stuck. Did I hit some button? There we go. We'll do it. Okay, and so we do 16 weeks of mindfulness training in all of the classrooms, also for the staff. And also the reason why we're doing this is to help build intentionality in everything that we do, but also for our students. We have a common school-wide language that we're building for the students, and it goes home as well in newsletters. We have a year-long calendar with monthly themes, and overall just very clear behavioral expectations and supports that you can see around the school. So I think we're going to start with Ms. Jen telling us a little bit about mindfulness, and then we're going to practice it if you're all okay with that.
And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your beautiful students with me, because I love mindfulness. They don't have to love it, but I ask them to try it. And really, what we share together is that in that moment between some experience that we're having, a stimulus that we're having, and what we choose to do with it, with our action and behavior, is the space that is our power. And in that space, we can choose to respond, we can choose to react, but if we use our whole brain, we're making a choice that we have control over versus our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings having control. And so we thought that we could share the mindful moment for all of you. And it's about just taking a moment, a calm, still moment, to create that little space.
Okay, so can we please all put our mindful bodies on? Can we take one deep breath in and out? Once you cannot hear it anymore, with your favorite hand, find your anchor and take one deep. What is your breath, where you can feel your breath? Okay, so take 3 deep breaths in and slow breaths out. Thank you. Thank you.
So our amazing friends just taught you a mindful moment. We do that across school in all the classrooms. And mindfulness for us is an informal practice. So we're not meditating, it's religious. We're not looking to clear our mind. We're actually, we love that our learners have all these thoughts. And it's just a moment where we kind of settle in, we kind of notice these thoughts, and kind of redirect our attention back to our breath so we can focus and be better learners, better friends, better brothers and sisters, and focused.
And so it's one of the tools that we use that's part of our school-wide SCL program. And the kind of the foundation of the school-wide behavioral expectations are right here in our big school-wide behavioral expectation chart. That actually we don't post this with the students, but they actually see it in little chunks, not as a whole like this. Hey friends, do you remember what our 3 school-wide expectations are? Remember, it's
Be respectful, be responsible, and be a learner.
Yep, and see the thing is they actually know all the answers. So if I gave them a quiz and said, okay, who can tell me what it means to be respectful in the hallways? Respectful in the hallways. Do you remember what we do? You want to tell us, Adele? Tell them really loud.
Be quiet
Mm-hmm.
and don't talk if someone's talking on the hallway.
Okay, especially when we're eating our lunch during rainy day, right? Yep. How about being responsible on the play yard? Got some ideas about that? What do you think about that?
Not working on the play structure and keeping our hands to ourselves.
Yep, that sounds like something, right? Okay, so we did what I do. Okay, how about ready to learn in an assembly? Who could tell me something? Colin, you want to tell me something?
Keep your hands still in your lap.
Okay, that also would be respectful, I think. Can you think about something to learn in an assembly?
Have your eyes on the speaker.
Oh, that's another great one. And so
That's a
the
good
thing is, they actually know all of this because we've been talking about it and practicing it at our school-wide assemblies and also in the classroom. But let's take a look at a school-wide assembly for a minute. These are some pictures of our school-wide assemblies. We've been having them every week. I don't think you can see over there, sorry. Every Wednesday outside, and it's been really this lovely community building event, and Rachel was able to come join us on one of them, and you're always welcome to join us 8:30 on Wednesdays. And it's the time for us to come together as a whole school and to learn some social emotional lessons, but also to get some good choice tickets out there, which you're going to hear about later. And we have our assembly coming up is going to be around the month of gratitude. So we've got our 5th graders here and they're working on some skits. They want to tell us about?
Okay, so gratitude is being able to acknowledge what we take for granted.
Even just the simple things, like the beautiful nature surrounding us.
Or maybe even a little bit bigger things like maybe having fresh water to drink or getting to go to school every single day.
Some people don't have some of these things.
And so at school, we've been practicing these things by
Making skits to teach others about gratitude.
and we've also been using mindfulness to reflect on our gratitude and really acknowledge what we're saying, smaller things or bigger things that we are grateful for.
These are both great ways to reflect on your gratitude.
And gratitude is very important, and we should be practicing it every day.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and they actually have been practicing skits, and then other groups of kids come in and make skits, and so it's a fun way for us to teach each other some of our school-wide tools that we're working on and themes. And then in the classroom, let's talk about our next slide goes through the classroom, what it looks like in the classroom too.
So in the classroom, we've been really lucky to have Miss Jen coming. We're at the end of an 8-week cycle, and she comes every week to teach a little mindfulness lesson to us, and then giving us kind of those reins to try it out on our own in the classroom. Today we took a mindful moment after a rainy day recess, a rainy day lunch, math rotations. We needed to have a mindful moment before we moved on in the afternoon just to settle our thoughts and be ready for the next activity. And it was just like 1 minute of calm in a really chaotic day, and you could see their body language just change and their attitudes change. So we definitely talk a lot about being respectful, responsible, and being a learner, and talking about what it looks like and what it sounds like in our classrooms. In the 5th grade, we also take it a step further and we create a Bill of Rights with our students, which then allows the students to talk about those students that are in our classroom. How do we take those school-wide expectations and apply to what we as individuals know that we need and want in our classroom? And what are our responsibilities in all of those rights that we want in our classroom? The great thing about our assemblies is that Ms. Harris teaches us all these great tools, and then we can take the tools right back into our classroom. And so I think there are some students today that we're going to talk about some of those amazing tools that we've been using in our classrooms, and I know I've been using them at home.
Yeah. So maybe we'll start with Colin, who's going to tell us about a really important tool first. You want to do the first tool? Okay.
This is the zones of regulation chart. The green zone is when you're feeling happy, focused, and ready to learn. The yellow zone is when you're frustrated, silly, and a little wiggly. The red zone is when you're mad, angry, and out of control. The blue zone is when you're tired, bored, and moving slowly. When I play baseball, I get really nervous. The yellow zone, I use my deep breaths to make me calm and go back to the green zone.
See,
Nice.
Colin's so smart. It took me like 10 years practicing with all these tools to figure out to use mindfulness when I'm thinking about my emotional regulation. So thanks for that, Colin. That was awesome. And then maybe you want to talk about mindfulness next. You want to do that, Felix?
Yeah. Mindfulness helps us relax and stop and look at our surroundings. I use mindfulness when I'm going to go up to sleep at night and I need to calm my body down. I use mindfulness when I can't figure out a math problem. It helps my brain to get unstuck. We do mindfulness at the beginning of the day to calm our bodies and get ready for learning. After I take deep, calming breaths, I realize everything's going to be alright. I recommend everyone uses it.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's a good call. And then we need our mindfulness to help us when we figure out our problems and the size of our problems. So I think Lily wants to tell us a little bit more about the size of the problem tool. You want to tell us that one? Okay.
This is the size of the problem chart. This chart helps us with problems on the playground or in class or in life. If there's a tiny problem like you lose a game of Foursquare or you spell a word wrong in your spelling test, you be flexible and get back in line and wait for your next turn and you can study the word again and you'll get it right next time. If it's a medium problem like you leave your lunch at home, you can ask Miss Harris if she could call your mom to drop it off. A big problem is a medium problem. If you are in an argument and if you're in an argument and one of your friends gets out but they don't want to leave the game, you might need to ask a guardian to solve the problem. This is an example of a big problem. A huge problem is when you break someone's leg or you get in a car accident. You need to stay calm and listen to an adult.
Yeah,
Excellent.
right. And so we use our zones to help us figure out what our emotions are and regulate them. We use our mindfulness to help us stay in the green zone, right? We use our size of the problem to help us figure out if we can solve it ourselves. And this tool here is called the problem solving wheel. And our students use this as well when they have little problems so they can figure out some ways to solve it other than getting really upset and going into the red zone. And they're very good at this. And they can use these ideas, including using iMessages, walking away, Rochambeau. And then if they feel like they need some help from a yard duty, they can do that. Or there's junior coaches out on the yard to help them as well. So we use all of our tools. You can see we've got a lot of tools already in just about 60 days, I think. That's not bad. And when we are using our tools and we're caught using our tools or caught using being respectful, responsible learner, we get something really exciting, which my friends here are going to tell you about. If you go to the next slide, you'll see we get good choice tickets. So you want to tell us about the good choice tickets? Okay, you guys going to go all the way up here and do it?
Yes.
This is the good choice ticket. You get a ticket when you show us how to be respectful, responsible, and
Yes.
Wow.
Good job.
And you know what's super special about these tickets right here? Do you remember what's really special about them? They're brand new, right? They've got our new Mustang logo on there, so we're super excited. We used to have these,
Oh, no, no,
and
good.
now we're breaking this out tomorrow. We're going to show the whole school. And can you tell our friends what's this?
you get it.
Can you tell them?
You get it. You mix up a box and then
Mhm.
you get your name on a choice ticket. You get a good choice ticket.
You're right. So we give all these tickets out. They're in a big box, right? And I stick my hand in and I pull them out, right? And I pick a name from every class, and then somebody in the class gets to wear this beautiful necklace, and they give out good choice tickets all week long.
Nice.
So we pay it forward, and it's a really good way for all of us to be scouts, looking for everybody that's doing the right thing. And so you can see we have lots of tools, and not only do the kids know about it, if you go to the last slide, you'll see that the parents know about it as well, because we send home in the newsletter tools that they can use at home as well. These are some fancier tools. So they've got the regular tools and the fancy tools, and they've got their little experts that come home and tell them how to do it. So we're really excited. We're really proud of all of our students here tonight, and all of our Wade Thomas students, and our incredible staff for really taking this on and owning it. And so we're happy to share it with you tonight.
Yes.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. To the trustees, do you have anything, any questions for the staff or for the students? Let me just start. I loved it. And I think a lot of adults could use some of these tools and some of these things too.
For that,
Oh.
because we brought you some tools, some pocket things.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is good. Yes. Excellent.
I just wanted to say to all of you that you were talking about, Allie and Willie, you were talking about gratitude. I'm very grateful, and we're all very grateful for you coming out on a weeknight and making this presentation. I will tell you that I use mindfulness myself. It helps with my breathing. It helps me go to sleep. I think these are wonderful techniques to learn at any point in your life. It's come to me a little bit too late in life. And so thank you very much for coming out. And have you guys come to the point where you really look forward to just a peaceful moment to break up your day? Do you look forward to it? Yeah. Cadence, do you think that it's a good breakup of the day?
You like it?
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you very much. It's great to see you.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Well, we have a little something for you. And then all you have to do to get it is to come up here, and we got to take a picture. What do you think of that? Is that cool if we can get a picture? So why don't we all come up here? Why don't we give you, come on up here first of all.
Let's go. Okay, very good.
That's how we do it. Hard fives. Nice job. Ryan, good work. Nice job. That was really fun. It was really nice to see you guys. It really was. Who's you can
And you can.
why don't you start on that and I'll start on this side.
Thank you.
And who's taking our picture? Can we get the board up here too?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Bring it all up. Bring it all. Let's go. You guys cool with pictures? You don't have to smile in this picture. It's kind of really cool. That's like the one time you can actually stick your tongue out as long as the mask doesn't move and no one's going to know. So feel free to make any face you want for the picture because as long as you have a mask on, you're going to get away with it. How does that sound? All right, let's bring it all in. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Okay. You know what it means in
Everybody's
French?
face there.
You know what it means in French?
All right, show those teeth.
I am French, so that's awesome. You got to win.
Yes. All right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I love
Hey,
to
thanks
share.
a lot, everybody. I'm really glad you came.
Excellent.
You have a lot of
Excellent.
homework
Very
for
good
what?
skit. Awesome. Awesome.
Thanks for coming. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Have a great night. Hey, thank you. You have a wonderful week, by the way. You try one more? Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Nicole. Nice to see you. Oh, you did? That's great.
But I didn't want you to know like today was
I know.
I love to do
Yeah, definitely. Thanks again.
Thank you.
I'm passing on the
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. You give me an activity to do. I will do it.
With mindfulness.
A bit of mindfulness.
Yes.
You go here and one for other here.
We'll wait for Marcy to come back before we
Yes.
pick that up. I'm sure she won't be long.
But you do a bit of self-breathing.
We should leave that little gong thing.
There's a
for our
gongy
meeting.
stuff,
That's how
yeah.
we should just go from item to item with the little mindful gong. Be mindful.
We used to start the PTA meeting and like that at Wade Thomas back in the days. With a bit of gong.
That's great.
Yeah. Excellent. Presentation.
Yeah.
Really super good.
Well, I think making a presentation at a young age is
It's
a hard
just-
thing to do. Sooner the-
I know my youngest one came to do one of those once at the board, and she was very, very grateful.
The more you do it, the easier it is. It's always nerve-wracking.
I can't remember if I think it was the Wade Thomas presentation, I think, or was it something else? Must have been. I don't even remember, but she definitely came out. I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah. That was great. So back to sitting she knew how to do that one. She knew. That was good. That made my day. That was fantastic.
Great. Always fun to have students at our board meetings.
Obviously.
Okay, in the gist of running a meeting, should we close the door?
I think there's
Okay, great. We're going to move on to e-communication. Is there any public comments on the report out from what?
Close session.
Did I not start? Oh, report out from closed session. Sorry. So no action was taken in closed session. And again, the beginning of our meeting was cut off with some technical difficulty. The only thing that I want to come out in for the closed session and for the open session is that President Hamilton is not here tonight for this meeting. So is there any public comment regarding items that are not on the open session agenda?
yes.
So just go ahead, state your name, and as long as it's on the agenda.
My name is Scott LaFranchi. My wife and I have two daughters who are students in the district. At the September 28th Equity Update, the district reported that it will identify, develop, and adopt curriculum that supports anti-racist education in grades TK through 8, and that student placement in accelerated and intervention classes will be proportional to the makeup of the district student body. You have spent large sums of money on consultants to teach our faculty CRT and anti-racism. You have said that you want teachers to bring what they learned into classrooms ASAP. My kids are not being taught important skills like Spanish or keyboarding in school, yet you spend many thousands on woke consultants and anti-racist materials. You're not going to rid the world of racism by teaching kids that white people are biased against people of color. The systems of this country are made up of people. The vast majority of people in this country are not racist. Are the Golden State Warriors racist because the vast majority of their players are African American? Is UC Berkeley racist because their most common student racial group is Asian American? Is our school district racist because our board, staff, and administrators mostly have white skin? No, they aren't, and we aren't. Yes, some people are racist, but that does not mean that we should teach our children that white Americans are subconsciously racist. It is racist itself to draw that inference. Guilt by an immutable characteristic like the color of your skin is inherently racist. Just because my children's skin is white does not mean that they bear any responsibility for the sins of white people from the past or present. The fact is that people of every skin color have committed atrocities in both the past and in the present. Teach our children to help poor people and to follow the golden rule. Don't teach them to be obsessed with race or to hate their country or to feel guilty for the color of their skin. Lowering academic standards in order to achieve equal racial outcomes is a losing proposition. Teach our kids to strive for equal opportunity, but not to get rid of the impetus for work by mandating equal outcomes. I don't want my children being taught anti-racism or CRT. Their country is not systemically racist, and their souls do not believe that they are superior to people of color. You don't have our parental consent to teach our kids CRT or anti-racism. Thank you.
Are there any more public comments?
Hi, my name is Sean Madden. My wife and I have 2 children in the Ross Valley School District. I think, as you saw before, the district overall does a sensational job with education. And essentially, it's my goal to help keep it that way. I too have concerns about the diversity, equity, and inclusion program. The words diversity, equity, and inclusion, I love them on their individual merits. However, combined together, they can lead to unintended consequences. I have always sought diversity throughout my entire life. At the age of 19, I moved to South Korea for a year, and I lived in China for 6 months. It is a strange feeling to be the only one of a certain race in a room or on a bus. I get it. That experience taught me that America's strength was not in diversity itself, but in how we can cope with diversity. An interesting fact about Korea is it is a nation divided in 2, North and South Korea. There are families divided on each side, and the 2 sides stand in stark contrast from each other. There's the North, which embraced Marxism, communism, and socialism. There is the South that embraced capitalism, democracy, and freedom. The benefits of capitalism versus socialism also couldn't be more stark. North Korea doesn't have enough food or energy for its small and shrinking population, while South Korea has plenty for its large and growing population. So that's my background, and that brings me to the RVSD Equity Update. In there it states the word anti-racist a number of times. There's too many to go over. A couple that stick out, as this gentleman had mentioned before me. The anti-racist outcome, academic achievement, student placement, and accelerated classes will be proportional to the makeup of the RVSD student body. Anti-racist outcome systems and structures. Recruit and hire a more diverse administrative staff. This would indicate race, ethnicity, or group identity will be given priority over individual merit of student, teacher, or staff under consideration. I think the school system should always seek to hire teachers, staff, and promote students using unbiased methods based solely on their individual merits and qualifications, all in the pursuit of academic excellence. The word anti-racist appears quite often in the DEI literature provided by RVSD. Therefore, I do find it troublesome that, according to a leading critical theorist in our country, Ibram Kendi, who has been invited to the county of Marin to speak on the county level, and I quote, to be truly He says, and I quote, "To be truly anti-racist, you have to be truly anti-capitalist." Given what I have experienced in my life and seeing the stark difference between capitalism and socialism, my question for you, the Board of Trustees, would be, in embracing anti-racism, do you also plan to pursue teaching your children to be anti-capitalist as well? I know of no system around the world besides capitalism that has lifted more people out of poverty more than any other system in the history of mankind. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more public comments regarding items not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move it on to board announcements.
I have none.
No,
I attended the Wade Thomas morning on Wednesday, which was really lovely. Got to see the students again, which is great to do. And then I sat in a little bit of their principal chat, which went over the social emotional learning.
Awesome.
That was lovely. It was great to see their program in action because the kids are really, really focused and you could see how they were implementing it. It was great.
Pretty amazing when you go onto a school campus.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it just regardless of if you're a parent or and you're not there very often, it's not your everyday spot. It's really kind of magical to kind of see not only just kids back in class, but just the whole
Being there.
activity as a whole. Yeah. I had an announcement. I attended a choral at Whitehill, which my daughter was in. Miss I'm forgetting
Sam
her
Nickel.
yeah, Miss Nickel put on a chorus concert for Halloween. It was fantastic. Same thing applies when you see kids doing what they like to do in their free time. It's their elective, and they get to put on a performance. Parents are really excited. All the cameras are out. It reminded me of times when that was just the norm, and it reminded me personally how much I missed those little things which you go, oh, okay, Thursday night we're going for this. But then when you see it, every time you see it and you leave, you just feel better. And you see the kids feel it better. So it's just a testament to how difficult it's been because they were singing through masks. And, it was just like taking the picture with the kids here. You don't have to smile because we miss a lot of the interpersonal connection when we wear the masks. And we've got to do what we've got to do. But at the end of the day, the kids were no less full of joy and accomplishment when it was over. And so those are always fun. And I'm glad I'm able to report back that I was able to see it and share a little of the joy. Anybody else?
I know. On the topic of performances, the Whitehill Jazz Band has a performance at Iron Springs tomorrow, 4:30.
Sweet. That band is killer. Like that impressed me too when they didn't want to call Jim Moran.
4:30 tomorrow.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, moving on to correspondence communication with the board. We had one item.
Yeah.
Did everybody take a look at that?
Yeah.
And okay.
Okay.
So with that, I guess we will move over to F, presentation and action item for assessing declining enrollment impact. And I believe this is Chris.
Yes.
And do we have to do this one? We do. It's important. But okay, let's go.
This will be the Christian for a little bit here. Yeah, gentlemen, we're not going to be the least bit offended if you decide to leave at this point.
Thanks for your input.
We're just going to thank you very much for coming
Thank you
in.
for coming.
Thank you.
What we're going to talk about is kind of an overview of California, the enrollment information for the district, and impacts upon the budgets. So as we look, first thing we'll talk about is California. And as we're talking about California in general, what you'll notice is that these slides were actually from a workshop that Marcy, Julia, and I attended. It was a declining enrollment workshop. It was a two-part workshop that School Services of California put. And so I want to make sure that we note that those are their slides. So when we look at this, the first thing that is important is that for the first time in California history, in a sense, we saw a decline in student enrollment from 1920 to 2021. So that was last year. And this is statewide. There was a 2.6% drop across the state. So Ross Valley was not unique. In addition, as they're looking at the data, what they're saying is that they expect the entire state between now and 2030, 31 to drop the student enrollment to drop 11.4%. And so that's an enormous drop in population expected across the state. And we'll get into that a little bit more in future slides.
Is part of the attrition, Chris, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, is it going to non-traditional public schools? Or does this have more to do with just a decline in students overall? And maybe you don't know the answer to that.
Actually, I don't know fully. I think they're seeing kids go everywhere. And so I didn't put all of the slides in here, but later on I do have a slide where it shows.
There was one slide, yeah.
There's a slide that shows all the counties decline.
Right.
And I put it in because it talks about Marin in there. But then there's counties that they are seeing growth. And what you notice is that the growth is primarily in counties like in the mountains, in rural type areas. And the declines are primarily in
Cities.
Cities.
Yeah,
Yep.
the San Francisco metropolitan area, as well as Los Angeles, are your primary declines.
All right. Sorry for interrupting.
And so when looking at this, we're balancing the declines in enrollment with all of these new dollars that are coming in. And you see all of these COVID dollars that all of the districts are receiving up and down the state. Yeah. And there's a mismatch between what the public thinks in terms of the district has and how you would spend those dollars, because when you get them, they're one-time dollars by default, and so you're spending those down, and eventually those expenses and revenues end. And then the other part of that is, as you are declining in your enrollment, there's what they're calling a cliff, and it's caused by a hold harmless, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes as well. And actually, this is the hold harmless part of it. When looking, this is, doesn't work real well. Yeah. Well, if you look at the left side of the graph, what you'll notice is that the purple and the green, the purple being what our funded ADA is, and this is just in general, this isn't for us, this is how schools are funded. So your funded ADA would be at the higher purple, and your actual ADA is in green. And so because there's a 1-year lag when you're in declining enrollment, you get paid based upon your prior year enrollment. So that's why there's the discrepancy. And then you'll see from the move to the next column, the green and the purple are exactly the same. And so the second year, you're funded at what your prior year attendance is. Yeah. And so then you decline a little bit again with that green, and then you see it kind of staircase down over that 4-year period. What we have in the current year is in 2021, you'll see that the purple and the green on the graph to the right, the purple and the green are exactly the same. And the reason for that is that districts did not take attendance last school year. Mm-hmm. And that's because that's what the state required, and we would be funded based upon our 1920 ADA. Mm-hmm. And you'll see that carry over into the 21-22 year. And so you don't have that drop down in that third year. But what you do see in that fourth year is the drop down all the way down to where you should be. And so it's a much steeper drop, and you can see it in those circles. You go, there's a 0 decrease to the right, but you should have received, if you look in the middle and the left, 89.34. And so in the following year, you drop 214 as opposed to 125. And so it's a much steeper decline. So that when we talk about a cliff, when you're in declining enrollment right now, that's the cliff we're talking about. When looking at the state as a whole, and looking at population growth, what you've seen over decades and decades is that California has been a boom state. Between 1960 and 1970, it was a 26% growth rate. Between 80 and 90, it was 25. And then you start to see a decline. It was 14.8 between 2000 and 2010.
Yeah.
Then 6.5% from 10 to 20. Well, between 20 and 30, they expect a slight increase of 5.2%. So it is a drop. You're still increasing, but it's a drop over.
Yeah, you're plateauing now. Yeah.
But what's important to note is we actually lost for the first time in state history. We had a net migration out of the state. And so that's important to note as well, which does help to answer some of the questions that you had asked, but it doesn't answer all of them because that's only less than 0.5%, where it was 2.6% migration out in terms of total enrollment for students. The other factor that we need to be aware of is birth rates have declined. In 2007, in looking at this graph, what you'll note is that California's birth rate was 2.2, and it was 2.12. I think that's per 100. But there's a decline. I'm sorry, we were at 2.2, the national average was 2.12.
Yeah. Then
as you move forward into 2020, California has dropped from 2.2 down to 1.52, and the nation is 1.64. So we're now lower than the national average, but there's a really large drop in our total birth rates. And so we might have growing population, but that's also having a negative impact on student enrollment. And you see that when looking at this slide. This particular slide discusses kindergarten enrollment. And over the last 5 years, the state saw roughly an 8.5% enrollment in kindergarten as a percent of all of the grades. Now, when you look at the 2021 school year, last year, it was 7.7%. So you're starting to see that lower birth rate having an impact upon your grade levels. And so that will negatively impact school districts as a whole. As we look, this particular slide, I wanted to point this out because we talked about having over a 14% drop in total California student enrollment. This is what the total decline is by county, by the major counties with the largest drops. And what you'll note is Marin County is the third from the bottom. So we're just under 15% is the anticipated decline in county enrollment, which that's great news if you're a district like Mill Valley, which is community funded, and they don't care if they have a drop in enrollment because they still get the same amount of revenue. But for districts such as Ross Valley, that we're funded based upon the number of students that come in because of our property tax base, that has a direct negative impact upon the Ross Valley School. The other thing that is important to note as we start to look at our budgets, as you're declining, your funding and your ADA are both kind of declining. They're declining together. But what is important to note is when you finally bottom out where your attendance starts to go the other way, your funding stops. You're not getting any more dollars for it, and you're having to spend more because you're going to have to hire more staff. So that's just important to note that you have that kind of
bottom out,
settling up, so to speak. It's just something to keep in mind. And again, these are all slides from School Services of California, which is, they are the financial leader, so to speak, for education. Whenever we have questions on finance, we get it from School Services, the responses, and they provide all of this very valuable information. So when looking at our specific enrollment, this is our historical information since 2015-16. And what you will see when looking at it is it's a staircase down. And the line is a trend line. There was one particular point in time when we have flat enrollment. Between 17-18 and 18-19, we had the exact same number. It's unique. Doesn't happen very often, but we did. But then you continue the downward decline. And we did see a spike down with COVID in 2021, and it appears to have leveled out in 21-22. You'll see that our enrollment is 1748 in the current year. And just to be clear, these enrollment numbers, when we talk enrollment, we're actually talking about it in terms of our CBED state. And CBEDs is it's a 1 day point in time every school year, and it's always the first Wednesday in October. So when we talk about enrollment, that's really
the day.
That's the day.
Yep.
We know we have different enrollments throughout the year, but if you are asking me what our enrollment is, I'll always refer back to the CBEDs. So all of this data is available publicly on the CDD website, with the exception of 21-22. We're just now reporting. Now this is something that is also publicly available, with the exception of 21-22. Get this on the CDD website. This is really useful to look at because you see our grade levels and how our enrollments, which are down at the bottom, total enrollments, look in terms of grades. And the one thing, you see the staircase down in blue and in yellow. What I'm trying to do is show how you really want to look at it. That's cohort data, and you see them follow down every year and move forward a grade. And so what's not unusual in the Ross Valley School District is you see parents start with their children in kindergarten, but a lot of our private schools do not have a kindergarten program, so then they would put them into a private school once they hit first grade. So it's pretty common with our district to see the drop.
Can I ask you a question? Not to interrupt, but to interrupt.
Yes.
When I look at these numbers, I look at them probably similar to what you would, from the standpoint that I want to delete 20 and 21 as not factual data. I want to look at it because that's a number that was there when we do math. But I'd like to strike that column, move 2021, bypass the year, and see the rotation between, for example, your blue fourth grade, and 2 years later, it's still there, 210 to 210.
Yeah.
And if you strike out that middle, that one column, which was the one that didn't fit for all the reasons, and then we look at the fact that 2021 is starting to move back up because people have more confidence. Do you, just off the top of you, being you, do you feel as though that those numbers can start to come back up just based on kids coming back from the COVID scare, getting back from the cabin type of learning, getting back more into the mainstream?
That's a difficult one for me to answer, only because I've been in the district only for a year. So that's really all I know.
Well, if we can look at the previous slide. So look at, even in 2021, we were at 1764, and this year we're at 1748. So we are still declining. We didn't recoup all of the students from the 2019-20. We didn't recoup them into the 21-22. We still have a little bit of a decline. Now, what we don't know is the reason for that continued decline. Is it because of the state's projections of enrollment throughout the state, and then now it's not pandemic related? It might have to do with the decline that's occurring in California, specifically that 14, almost 15% Marin County. And so it is great news, going to the next slide, as you pointed out, Ryan, that in the blue, 19-20 fourth to 21-22 sixth, that we have come back up a bit. One of the things is we are still having students enroll in the district. We've just gotten 3 this week. And we also have some students moving. They're not leaving us to go to another school in Marin County. They're actually moving out of
Marin, to another state.
Yeah.
And so
Oregon also.
thinking about it feels like, just based on the data that we have, is that it is the decline that's occurring in California, folks leaving the state.
I guess it's probably a combination of both. It's probably COVID coming up and the actual trends taking
And
effect.
then do remember that because of our need to be able to offer the independent study program, and we've partnered with the Nevada Unified School District for that, those students who are participating, and I think we have now around 13 students, roughly, that those students are not in our enrollment. They are no longer in our district. They will return once they come out of the independent study. Then they will go back into our enrollment. But they are right now residents on an inter-district transfer into this Nevada school district.
Okay.
So if that's,
that's helpful.
some helpful information.
I have a question. Like, I'm looking in diagonal. I only care about the diagonal when I see that. You have really the only grade that I'm worried about is the current second graders, because you have lost 20. This way you have 167. Last year you had 186, 85, and 2 years before you had 236. So it seemed that to be that cohort, that the one that is the most impacted with, like, it keeps going down kind of dangerously. Or is it, are there a lot of second graders are enrolled in those independent study, or is it just by chance, or do you have something there? Because the other one they seem to be kind of doing quite well. You know what I'm saying? I'm not seeing much.
You know,
drop.
if I
Yeah.
The interesting thing is I've been following this enrollment data for 10 years.
Yeah.
And always hearing people saying, oh, we need, a while back it was, we had an open Deer Park, we got all these students are coming, and they didn't always come. It's nice to see data, and it's nice to follow the trends that we're saying are coming from California, but the truth is we just really don't. We just don't know. We just have to plan for what we're seeing in the trends, but I still have confidence that these numbers are going to bounce back up, and it's not going to be as crazy. I mean, it's better to prepare in case it doesn't, and have your contingency plans ready to go and the thought process there. But I just, my own instinct tells me that it's going to be a little bit better than, when we come back and do this math next year and watch that thing, I think we're going to see something bounce up. But that's just, I'm not an expert.
And one of the things, kind of going back to your question, if you were asking me from a mathematical standpoint last year, if I wasn't looking at COVID and just looking at cohort, I would have told you that we would be dropping in student population roughly 62 kids. Just looking at the numbers that I see right there in 2021.
So this is more than we have more kids than you are predicted, right? So
we have more than what I would have predicted simply looking at cohort.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that for me is a good sign.
Yeah.
We were hoping to get more back because of going back to full.
Do you know anybody? I know several families that were just in the district that just said not yet. And so, I mean, I'm not a popular guy, but I know a few. If I know a few, I have to think that everybody's got a few, and that's kind of the numbers we're seeing. But
and that's very possible. So.
Okay.
The part of the second graders.
Okay, onward. Sorry. That was really good information. That's a big deal.
Actually really.
Second grade is also they haven't really had a normal year.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm like, I
it
can
makes sense that they're not a normal cooking cohort, because people probably said this isn't working for me, little ones.
Right. Huddle them up, bring them to Miss Ladybug's house. Read books. Okay, onward.
So this is important to kind of look at, and you do see, kind of going back to some of those earlier slides when you're looking at your lower birth rates and how California is seeing lower numbers of kindergarten students. You definitely see that even with us. Between 15, 16, and 21, 22, we're down close to 60 kids. So.
And I do think, too, in some cases, we did have a couple of students who are in one of the preschools in the area who would have been TK eligible this year. But because that school provides before and after care as well, they're full in their school age program. And so those families needing to have childcare chose to have their students remain at the childcare location as opposed to come in for school. So it's, that's just anecdotal. There were just, my memory was there were 3 students. So it's not a large number, but there are also other where there may be families who weren't quite ready.
Yeah.
Especially when we had the Delta raging at the beginning of the school year, they may have chosen another year. We also know that next year, the expansion for transitional kindergarten will begin.
Correct.
And so we will be operating TK next year with expanding the age of entry. Well, let me say the months of entry. Right now, it's currently the students would need to have their 5th birthday between September 2 and December 2 of the school year in which they're entering TK. And next school year, they will be age 5 between September 2 and February 2. So we're capturing another 2 months of students who will be eligible for TK. So we are looking to be able to expand the TK program as well. And that continued phase in will go through the 24-25 school year. By that year, all children age 4 will have a TK program. Now in California, TK and kindergarten are optional for parents to have their child attend. School districts are mandated to offer the programs. And one change in the law that's going into effect next year is some of the school districts that are basic aid or community funded, they haven't needed to operate a transitional kindergarten if they didn't have the number of students that would warrant operating a class. But with the change in the law, they will need to start doing so next school year. So some of the questions have been around, can they enter into a consortium with another school district or that kind of thing? So there's some more to be learned about the actual implementation. But we would also know that as we're looking to grow our enrollment, we would like to have the students remain in the school district through the end of their 8th grade year. 1 year is nice, but if they leave us to go somewhere else after that initial year, that's not the continued enrollment, which will be helping to, as we will see a little bit later, to help our bottom line, to help our budget.
And Marcy was just talking about transitional kindergarten. Yeah. When looking at this slide, transitional kindergarten, all of those students are in the K line. Yes. They're considered kindergartners from the state. Yeah. So we should see a small increase in our total K population just on the natural because we're adding 2 months. Additional
additional opportunities for kids.
Is the state funding those TK students now from the time that they're 5 or 4?
From 5.
5. So we'll have them here, but they won't be ADA funded until they turn 5.
Well, they will be funded under the new plan.
Okay.
Awesome. All right.
I know that was a sticking point before.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you could actually start them when they were 4, but you weren't going to be paid until they hit 5.
Copy.
There we go. So now I wanted to discuss how that all of those things we were talking about in terms of enrollment impacts our budget. And this is a slide from our adopted budget. It's slightly different than what I'm going to show you in a little bit, just in terms of total LCFF revenues. The numbers are just a little different, but that's based upon natural changes in the budget. But it doesn't change how this is conceptually. When looking at our adopted budget, what you see is funded ADA in 2021 of 1969.08 and LCFF revenues, and this is last year's data, of $16,555,000. And then moving forward, you see that same funded ADA in the current fiscal year, because remember, they're holding us harmless. We don't take ADA. Right. That number is still based upon the 1920 actual ADA. Yep. And our revenues jump based upon additional funding that we're given, cost of living adjustments. And then in 22-23, at that time we were showing funded ADA of 1697 and LCFF revenues of 15,460,000. Now I have that circled. Look back at the 2021 and you'll see that our revenues actually drop. So we're actually dropping in revenues. And it's important to note, I talked about a cost of living adjustment. If you kind of look at the graph at the bottom, in 2021, you see $8,407 as the amount per ADA. In 22-23, it's $9,156. And so we're getting more per child. We just see a massive decline in our funded ADA.
Yeah.
That's what's causing
Right.
issue.
Copy.
So that's why I wanted to point that out. And again, that's the cliff that they're talking about. And you see that still the top half is the same, the bottom half is different. What will happen is people say, okay, well, you're getting less, you have less students, you cut the staff for it, and we're good. Less revenue, less expenses, and it's a wash. Doesn't work quite that way. If you look at that first column at the bottom, it shows 100. So if you have a change in ADA of 100 children, and your funding, let's just use the 22-23 amount, is $9,156, and you changed your students by 100, that's $915,000 in revenue. So that would be that much less in revenue. When looking at 100 students, you generally estimate 25 students per teacher, just kind of as an average. So you would say that you should be able to cut roughly 4 teachers. Doesn't exactly work out that way, but kind of in theory, you should be able to cut 4. Well, if step 4, column 3, or that column 4, step 3, I'm sorry, of this teacher salary schedule would be $87,000. Doesn't sound right. Oh, that's salaries and benefits. I'm sorry.
Yes, it's on that.
So that's a total all-in cost. It's $87,000. If you have 4 of them, it's $350,000 cut in expenses. And so you have $915,000 cut in revenues, $350,000 cut in expenses.
Yep.
And your net gain or loss, in essence, is $564,000, the difference between the two, the delta. And so that gets larger as you move out with the number of students. And we lost roughly 275 students in 2021. And so that's $1.5 million when looking at that delta, which is roughly what our
1.527.
what our deficit is as we start to look moving forward. And so all of those numbers that we were looking at were our adopted budget. This is how we actually closed our books in September. And so when you closed the books, what we had were some gains, and our ending balance was roughly 20.4%. We have that in the next slide. But what's important to note, if you look right in the middle where it says net increase decrease, you see we had a almost $1.6 million gain in 2021. We would show a $382,000 gain roughly in the current year.
Yeah.
But then you see large deficits.
Yeah.
Well, those large deficits have to do with those changes in revenue.
Yeah.
And so going back to that example I was showing you, it was roughly $1.5 million.
Yeah.
There's your $1.5 million.
Okay, super.
So again, the cliff is caused really by the loss in students.
Okay. Copy that.
So but there's your ending balances at unaudited actuals. And so I put questions on here, but before we get to that, what I wanted to point out is at our next board meeting in December, we will be bringing back our first interim budget. So we'll have that. But the other thing that we'll have at that time is our data back from King and Associates.
King
Consulting.
Consulting. I was going to ask.
And it will be the full-blown review and deep dive into our enrollment. So the reason we did this is to kind of prepare the governing board and the public so that they have an idea of what our numbers were looking like. And then King will be kind of forecasting out in the future what that would look like. And a lot of that data will start to mean more for Ross Valley as opposed to just the state as a whole and then Marin County. So
Very
I
thorough.
just wanted to put that out there so that you know before we move into the question.
I have a timing question. Can you go back one slide? I want to make sure.
I'm trying to do it on my computer.
And one more. Just the one, exactly. This one here, we kind of see it all in. So when in next round of financial we're going to see, you will have different projection for next year and the year after. Are you going to change the projection of the enrollment as well based on what you have seen at the beginning of this year?
I will be.
Okay, so there will be your own version of that you are probably cooking right now. So you will present us something next time.
Correct.
And at the same time that day, we will have other information from King Consulting, but you're not going to use King Consulting. You're not going to be able to bake King Consulting in your next round of financial, right? The King Consulting, you will have to bake it the next time.
Correct.
To show it to us.
Interim budget.
Okay, so there will be two different rounds that are going to differ from that because enrollment projections are going to be different assumptions, right? Okay.
And that's a good point because remember that budgets change all the time.
Yeah.
And so by the time we get to adding the King Consulting numbers into our budget at second interim
Right.
in March,
Yes.
we will also have the governor's January budget proposal, which will have updated information for next fiscal year.
Yep.
And the implications on the out years as well.
Yeah.
So the numbers do change quite a bit as you move forward. But when looking at our enrollment in our ADA, it is what it is.
Yes.
Those numbers in terms of past haven't changed. And so kind of going back to your question, I'm going to go back a few slides. Right here, you can see, if you look at the bottom, you see the totals.
Yep.
In 2021, we were at 1764. Now we're at 1748.
Yeah.
We were hoping to get 1764 as our enrollment in the current year.
Yeah.
Because we were, because of COVID, we were expecting to get some of those people back.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, so you will see a slight
It's
decrease.
like something, yeah. But I like that we're understanding that today. This way, next time when we talk about the financials, we don't need to rematch this whole enrollment. You will refer to it, but we're not going to look at all of that, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Uh-huh.
Nice report.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very good.
just because we don't like it doesn't mean it's not a great report.
Yeah.
But it's also a couple of years back when I was here looking at this it was coming, and the COVID is there, so it just kind of blocked off and just pushed it off into the year is what it looks like. But we know butts and seats are going to be the reason that we survive or have to make cuts, and that's just kind of how it falls. Yeah. Okay.
We were not in
That's how we
increasing enrollment
increase
before, right?
revenues.
Yeah, we were not in increasing enrollment and then it went down. We were in declining enrollment all along.
Well, we've seen it. It's not. Wes, how many years before you were you looking at the same type of things? It was just kind of heading that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember 21-22 was the year it was supposed to go down, but we had COVID, so it looks like it just pushed it off one because we got free fund or matching funds from the year before just to keep it going, and now here we are.
And just to add to, if I can, the 275 students, if you remember from last year, that we lost, 111 of those did move out of the area. So it wasn't that they
Get them back.
stayed yet. So we tracked all of the students who did leave us last school year. And some have returned and others haven't. Of the balance, the 175 roughly, and then other families are moving in and other families are moving out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do we have any public comment on this item at all? Okay, so we're going to move over to educator effectiveness funds with the EEF or a block grant plan, and I think that's Marcy.
We're going to let Julia take this one this evening. Thank you, Julia.
Sure, my pleasure. Money coming in, so that's a good thing. So the Educator Effectiveness Funds Block Grant provides local agencies with funds to provide professional learning and to promote educator equity, quality, and effectiveness. And there are 10 different allowable areas and the ways that you can use these funds, and you don't need to have an item under each of those 10 areas. So I'm just going to go over the ones that we are planning to use, which we have 4 different areas that we've identified that we think are best for supporting our staff and our students. So the first is in the area of instructional effectiveness and improvement. And these are programs that can lead to effective, standards-aligned instruction and improve instruction and literacy across all subject areas. So this is your standards-based learning. And in here, providing support. We have a new math framework coming out, so looking at providing some professional development around that. There's a lot of new research or new programs related to new research around phonics and phonics awareness. You may have heard the phrase, the science of reading. So making sure we're up to speed with best practices there, while also reaffirming the work that we've been doing on having a balanced literacy program and all of the really great work we've done over time with Readers and Writers Workshop. So that's that first area, is really on instruction. And then another area that we're looking to spend funds in is pupil re-engagement. And these are practices and strategies that re-engage pupils and lead to accelerated learning. And this fits right in with our LCAP goal around our MTSS and developing tier 1 and tier 2 strategies that can be employed in the classroom, having our MTSS partners that can help provide that professional development. And so that's another one. And then school climate, which is practices to create a positive school climate, including transforming a school site's culture to one that values diverse cultural and ethnic backgrounds and prevents discrimination, harassment, bullying, and intimidation based on actual or perceived characteristics, including disability, gender identity, gender expression, language, nationality, race or ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation. And so, of course, this aligns with our district equity work.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to use funds to continue working with equity consultants to support that work.
It's awesome.
Yep. Good use.
And then finally, thinking about our TKers and the expanding TK program in the area of early childhood education. So, and just providing training and developing a program as we move forward with that. Our block fund grant is in the amount of $414,768, and those funds will be spent over the next 5 years, inclusive of this current year. And so this is a public hearing, and then the plan will be adopted it has to be adopted by December 30th, and so we'll bring it back on the December 14th meeting.
Our board has to approve it by that time, right? Great.
At that meeting.
Great.
Did I miss anything?
And it's not actually a public hearing, it's an opportunity for input into the plan. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, that's good news. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it always is like, well, we're losing, and then all of a sudden, bam, a nice little something for everyone to support. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Any other comments on that? Anyone? Okay. Which will move us over to our consent action. And well, actually, there's probably a public comment for that. Is there any public comment for our consent calendar?
No, it needs to be on the educator effectiveness block grant.
Oh, I thought I just said that. Was there any more call for? Is there any public comment on the educator effectiveness funds for the block grant? Okay, seeing none, we will move to the consent.
All right, I would like to pull the personnel action to correct the title of one of the positions listed there.
Okay. What we've got. So let's pull that. Do we want to discuss that now? Or just pull it entirely?
No, I would like to make a correction.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it can go ahead and be approved.
Okay, so.
And that is that, or do you want to wait and?
No, let's do it now and then just approve it if it's just a typo.
So with that is under the first Roman numeral 1 certificated personnel to employ Kristen Marcucci. What's listed there is to add an intervention teacher, 0.3 FTE, and the actual position that she is filling is English language learner teacher position. The FTE is correct. It was just the title of the position that she's filling.
Okay.
So I'd like to just make that correction.
Correction on the record? It's on the record?
Yeah.
Is there any other discussions or anybody else from the board, trustees, have any questions, concerns about? It's all one motion, so if all looks good, can I entertain a motion to approve the consent?
I'll move
actions?
section G with the amendment to G1 as articulated by Marcy.
I'll second
So
that.
noted. Second, we have a motion and a second. Let's take a roll call vote. Wesley?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Marie?
Hi.
Ryan? Aye. And no Shelley tonight. So that will roll call vote. Second in. That should move us over to H board business. This is a time where we hear any community updates and reports from trustees. Anyone present would like to make a public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, do Rachel, Wes, Marie have anything?
I actually went to the yes board meeting. Did you have anything, Marie?
Oh, would you go stay? Keep going. Yes.
So I went to the board meeting because they're the first Thursdays of the month. So I went to that last week. They have found art co-leads to help as art liaisons. So they were really thrilled to fill that position by 2 individuals who've stepped up to help. They talked a little bit about the art teachers talked about White Hill and some of the flooding that they experienced and how they've kind of adapted to deal with that situation. They spoke a little bit about the lessons that they're doing. And then as far as music, as I mentioned, you had a concert for a course that you attended. There is a jazz band concert coming up tomorrow night in Iron Springs that they're thrilled about. And then let's see.
That jazz band, by the way, is nuts.
You are a fan.
Yeah, those kids show up at 7 a.m, 5 days a week,
Yeah.
so they're pretty dedicated. In theater, their the enrollment members are good. They've hired directors for all the plays, so they're thrilled about that. They're figuring out if they're going to live stream it or not, and how that's going to work out. They launched the Family Giving campaign. And they usually have 2 main campaigns throughout the year, and they've just launched the initial one for this year. So they're really excited. They've got $30,000 matching gift that's floating around out there. So they're really hoping that people will help get that goal reached this year. Schools Rule gave them a very, very nice donation. Thank you, Schools Rule, with $38,000 check that they've given this year, which is great because I know that a lot of the fundraising arms of the districts around here have had a lot of challenges raising money. So Schools Rules helps a lot in that case. Yeah, that's great. And then let's see, I think they're going to be working on their mission statement a little bit as they go forward. And then finance, they were thrilled to say that they're up to date with RVSD payments. So
That's fantastic.
yeah. And I know Marcy was there, and so was Julia. So I don't know if there's anything I'm missing. Those are the main points.
I think you're going to cover everything I was going to say in the update. So thank you. Very thorough.
Marie?
Yeah, I wanted to give an update on the JLAC meeting of last month. Interestingly enough, the next JLAC meeting is tomorrow morning at 8:30. So I'm kind of 1 month behind because we didn't see each other since the last meeting. The last meeting was not as good, and I think you attended. Where are you? You attended toward the end of the meeting, and it was just a little bit that the slowest meeting I've attended in the last year. And I think the reason why is that there was just so much going on before. Is that now we're kind of getting into there's just not as much going on, right? Because a lot of things has been decided, and all the bills that we're talking about have either been passed or kind of a little bit slow right now. And none of these, typically you have the representative for our different assembly people are coming, but this time nobody came. So there was just really no update from Sacramento, to be honest. It was a little bit dry, but let me tell you what we talked about, although it was not super exciting. Like I was telling Marcy, come, and then when you came, like, oh, there was nothing happening really. Sorry about that. There was a lot of conversation around the ethnic study being part of graduation requirement. That's not really ours, because that's really high school, but I just wanted to point it out. With a lot of conversation, although now we know all about it, about AB 438, right? And the fact that in March 15, we are going to have to look into our classified staff in addition to the certificated staff. So there was a lot of conversation about that. But again, now we know, so okay, nothing much new to tell you about. A lot of conversation, and I'm just still surprised about how many districts are not in person, and a lot of just chat about you can keep being on Zoom, you can keep being on Zoom. And trust me, I work in a district where we are still on Zoom for our board meetings. So there was just a lot of that. And because we are ahead of being back, I'm feeling really good about the fact that we are in person, because that honestly, a lot of districts are not. And there's a lot of conversation and legislation around that, which I'm kind of, okay, we're just done. Let's move on now. We are back in person. But just some conversation around that. There was a lot of schools facilities bond with different legislative deadline happening. So that could be activated in January, but not completely sure. So once again, it's kind of one of the things that could happen. So we'll keep an eye on that and see what's really happening. I think a lot of that is going to happen in January. I think we're kind of a bit dead zone now, and January we'll start having a lot of more conversation, more active things about the next year budget. And they talked about vaccination and some of the requirement of vaccination, some of the stepping up on the requirement of vaccination for the next school year. So there is a lot of talk about that. And some of the talk were around the fact that personal belief exemption that are happening right now for religion, beliefs exemption, and medical, those would be applicable right now, right, as we know. But some folks who are actively trying to remove that piece, right, and kind of pass some legislation around removing the religious belief. The medical exemption is not going to go anywhere, but there is definitely some different movement from different parts of the state to also limit the exemption that the personal belief exemption. So as I said, there will be spirited conversation about this topic for this entire school year. So I will let you know if something is coming up, but this is definitely bubbling all over California. And that was it.
Okay.
More tomorrow, but tomorrow I will report in a month. So I will stay tuned.
Anything else on anyone? Okay, with that, we will move it right along to approval. H2, approval of the minutes. Are there any questions about the October 12th minutes? Would anybody like to pull anything? And is there any public comment on this item? Seeing no public comment, hearing no, I was wondering if anybody would like to make a motion to approve the minutes from October 12th, 2021.
Marie here, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 12th, 2021.
Motion, Marie, a second?
I'll second it.
Second with Rachel. We will start with a roll call vote. Marie?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Wesley?
I was unable to attend, so I will abstain.
And I for Ryan, so pass. 3 with an abstention and an absentee. Okay, that moves us right along to one of the most exciting things that happens in the night after the children, which is the superintendent and cabinet report. In which case, we will now hear from our superintendent, Ms. Marcy Trey.
All right, thank you so much. And Chris,
Well,
do you have anything else to add? You've been very busy.
I just wanted to talk real quick about White Hill and our, I don't know what you even call it, the atmospheric river, the atmospheric bomb, however they term it. Nobody expected to get 12 inches of rain. And by the time all of the creeks around White Hill were coming down, we just had too much water. But we had water coming down from behind the campus off of the hill, and we had water going into the library, that general area. We had the creek overflowing, going towards the office area, and just a lot of water. 12 inches in one day, and Marcy saw it. She got to see it firsthand, and we were trying to clear it as much as we could, but there was just too much water in there. There was.
I can't believe you're saying it. It's kind of like a wonderful, horrible problem, right?
Yeah,
It's really after everything, the wonderful, horrible problem.
And I can just add to that. Really want to thank Casey Crawford and Lindsay Crawford for coming out, and they were in full-on rain and wet weather gear, doing what they could along with Chris to clear. My jaw dropped when I drove past the parking lot and just went, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me!"
Yeah.
And then continued on up into the area where the gate is, where the culvert is.
Yeah.
But Chris talked about, it wasn't just the culvert; it was the water that came off the hill between the two new buildings. And I'm still going to call them new. And I remember a lot
Yeah.
of talk when they were designing those buildings about the swale. And I had never heard the word swale before, but that was intended by design to help support any potential water management coming off of the hill. And when Chris described the water coming into one of the swales and kind of jumping the curb, and that is what went right into the library. And so it was not just the culvert, but it was also the water that just came off of the hill just with the deluge.
What is swale?
That is a natural water kind of filtration and opportunity for water to flow naturally through its environment when you have put architecture on this in the space.
Okay.
And so, did I say that right? Did I do it? I remember
SWAIL?
Uh-huh.
Swale?
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it was fascinating because I remember the architects talking about putting that in at White Hill, and I was like, how is that going to help? And it definitely does in normal times.
Are those concrete?
Yes.
Like, okay, with the,
Oh,
the
this is.
channels. 'Cause
I was going to
wondering
say,
what
is it
those
those?
were.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
Because now I know what it is.
Yeah, it kind of flows down off of the hill into what almost
That-
looks like a creek.
Yeah,
and then
correct.
and then
It's
it
kind of
enters
semi-creek.
part of the system where it fills up, and then it overflows into another one that has a drain. The drain was totally overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
It,
And
And
it was overflowing.
it was overwhelmed. It wasn't as if it were clogged.
No,
The thing is, very few studies are actually done for 20, 30, 40-year rains. You know, the weather stations up by my house above the school were off the charts. And so, like I said, it was a welcomed horrible problem. But at the end of the day, I thought it was dealt with well. And also, something that should be commended is we were minus a couple key people on our staff that may have helped get us ahead of that a little bit. And I don't really think anyone who was even waiting there to do what they were supposed to do, if they knew it was coming, could have actually mitigated the whole problem no matter what happened. So I think it should be commended. I mean, things happen, but at the end of the day, that's Mother Nature doing her work, and we're just going to have to deal with it. And I refuse to think that the school district did anything negligent in any effect, because I've heard some people being upset that things weren't done, and I'm like, you go out there and you see the amount of water coming down there, and you tell me how a human could have stopped that. And so I think we did a great job, and I'm really proud of the way that all. I mean, horrible situation, but a wonderful situation.
Do you have a rough idea of what the damage, how much the damage is?
I don't know the dollar amount yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is an insurance project, and so
That was going to be my follow-up.
I will tell you that we have a $25,000 deductible, so our portion will be
Probably
that.
going to be 25K no matter what. Yeah.
Beyond the 25K, it is a covered event under our policy.
It is.
Okay.
Thanks
And-
for
So then that's 25 then. Yeah.
So,
Have we tendered yet?
no, we haven't done anything yet.
Okay.
So the other thing that I'm really proud of is that if you had seen the amount of water that was there and the amount of debris that was there, if you went there the following day, you saw it all over the campus. You saw it in the parking lot. It wasn't just Casey and Lindsay that did double time. Casey and Sean from maintenance the following day, as well as our custodial staff from that site, did an amazing job. It was all hands on deck. We spent the whole time there on Monday.
On the Monday when the school was closed, right? Yeah.
So school was closed on Monday, but
Yeah.
we were back open on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's great. Amazing, really.
And
No,
so
we were helping the teachers be able to move out of their impacted rooms. 4 classrooms were impacted, and good news is we have space on the campus. We were able to move them, and so it was definitely all hands on deck. And we're just really glad that there was no more damage and that we were just closed for the one day. So that was great, and thankful to everybody who came out and supported and helped. And also for some of those teachers, this had been their second time that they had gone through vacating their classrooms. And so, for them, their patience and their kind of that memory became very raw again.
and it does have an impact upon those teachers and the students. And so we're mindful of that, and we're pushing as quickly as possible. We have a holiday on Thursday, and be going in to make sure that the school is opened up and they can do their work. We're pushing as quickly as possible. Initially, when we were talking about it, there is a couple areas of carpet, and what they were saying is the carpet is 6 to 8 weeks. And we were also talking to them 6 to 8 weeks to receive it because of COVID. We were also talking to them about changing it out for tile instead. And what we went with is carpet that is similar to this, where it's in pieces. And they said it's actually easier with the carpet than it is the tile.
And then you remove the piece that's just damaged, right? Yeah.
So for them, it's better, the carpet. So that's what we've gone with. And so they had said 6 to 8 weeks initially on the carpet. When we were talking to them the day after they placed the order, they said it's only going to be 3 weeks for the carpet.
Great.
So that will be coming in because that was going to be the thing that pushed it out even further. And so right now they're giving kind of rough estimates, and they're saying roughly the middle of December.
Nice work.
I want to add to that is the communication that went out that evening and communication to the family was really top notch. And I thought that the kids were ready for their packet. You receive your packet at the beginning of the year, and now you take your thing and you know what to do. My kids were not with me that day, so I didn't really see how it worked. They were not with me, but I know I called my daughter twice that day, and she's like, "Mom, I'm busy with that thing. I have that thing to do." And I was thinking for a 13-year-old to have something to do that didn't feel like, I'm not a little kid, I don't want to do that thing. She was just happy to be on pen and paper that day. So I thought that was, I know there was a lot of time spent on, we need to have contingency plan that did help, not just for the parent to have their kid busy, but really my kid was happy. She's like, I have all that stuff to do.
That's great.
She was happy. So I know you said this is a day of, we need to go back to school for the kids. My kid she did something that day with her packet. So whatever that was, she was just engaged with her packet. So thank you for that. I'm just looking at Julie there.
And just one last thing. So the event happened on Sunday.
Yeah.
Marcy was out looking at schools before
4:00 in the morning.
Yeah. And by
On
5:30, I was at my desk placing the call for the insurance. I didn't do it the previous day because what are they going to do?
Right.
Yeah, don't go faster. Yeah.
And so I placed the call at 5:30 in the morning on Monday morning, and by 9 or 9:30, we had the restoration company there.
Oh, fantastic.
Nice job.
Because I want to make sure that they fully explore the possibility of mold.
That's what they're doing.
And because that can be a long-term problem. And
right.
want to make sure that it's done correctly.
That's great job. Great job.
It looks great. I was at the school site on Friday doing another round of subbing, this time for administrative staff, and went through all of the affected spaces. And so the sheetrock was pulled up, and it looks fantastic in terms of the way that the wood, all of the innards of the buildings, they do look great. And I think the restoration company is doing a fantastic job with ensuring that any place where there was water isn't going to have any long-term damage or effects on our buildings.
That's great.
So,
That's great.
And they're amazing.
And the person in charge of the project did the project the last time we had flooding back in 2005.
Great.
Whatever.
Historic.
It's very familiar with the spaces and
Great.
what it looked like once we opened them up. But
Fantastic.
they're amazing, wonderful staff. They are very friendly, but also just know exactly what they're doing and moving along every day. They have a number of people out there. It's amazing to see. All right,
So that was it.
that was it. Yeah, thank you, Julia.
Well, related to that topic, we're in the process of looking for a director of M&O and have had a couple of rounds of interviews and things are going really well. So that's been just a really wonderful process to be a part of and really optimistic. And we've also still working on getting our English language teacher and intervention teacher for Manor School. And so we've extended, and that was one of the consent items, of course, a TK teacher who works up 0.7, her contract is now extended so that she can provide English learner support for students. And then a couple of our MTSS partners are providing intervention at Manor right now while we're still looking for an intervention teacher. So making sure that the kids are getting the services that they need.
Nice work.
And it was actually those MTSS partners who put together the power packets. And they've really been able to just jump into all kinds of needs across the district. You know, we have some brand new teachers that they're providing additional support for, some new programs. Recently, we recognized that the EL kind of data work that we're doing and the assessments that we're giving aren't calibrated across sites. And so they're now working on putting that all together and putting it in an assessment system and helping us with our MTSS. And so some really good work being done by those 3 individuals. I think
Nice.
those are my updates.
Thank you. And unfortunately, Eric Sable, our Director of Student Services, was unable to be with us tonight. So I'll finish this up here. And so Rachel covered the YES board meeting, and Marie covered JLAC, and one of the other committees that Ryan Shelley and I are on is the Efficiency and Effectiveness. It's a county-wide committee. Shelley was able to attend the meeting. Ryan, unfortunately, due to work, was not able to. And really what the focus of that committee is to highlight as well as to look at further efficiencies that school districts, along with Marin County Office of Education, might be able to enter into, also to review what we're currently doing to share best practices and those kinds of things. And so there is a video that was started last school year, and that was reviewed at the meeting. And I just received an email, unfortunately not in time to be able to have it on our agenda and be able to share it with you all this evening. But that will bring that back to the December 14th. And it's really created to highlight the efficiencies and effectiveness opportunities that are throughout Marin County. And then also our continued work is to further the look at how we might be able to partner with each other throughout the county. So we have our next meeting tomorrow. That one starts at 7:30.
Oh, lucky you.
Followed
You're
by
1
JLAC
hour ahead of
at 8:30.
Yeah, you could start at
So we'll
7:30
be
and
there.
take you at 8:30.
All right.
And also, I just wanted to say how it's been great with the pediatric vaccinations rolling out. I volunteered last Saturday at the one Marin Health and Human Services, and some school districts around Marin County are offering their sites and locations. So I was at Miller Creek on Saturday. I think they did over 1,000 vaccinations that day. And then I'm volunteering this Saturday again, and that one will be held at Strawberry Point School in the Mill Valley School District. And so it was great to see the littles come through, and also some bigs. The 11-year-olds are quite large.
Yeah.
And then they were so excited. The majority of them were really excited. They're older siblings, so they had been hearing about it, and they want their turn. And so it was a great turnout. So we really want to thank Marin Health and Human Services, because Marin County really has been a leader through all of the pandemic, and without the support from MHHS as well as MCOE, just talking to other superintendents in other locations, having to figure it out on their own. And so the partnership that we have with our county services is fabulous and amazing. And I can say that at our last board meeting, you all approved an increase to our substitute rate.
Yeah.
I'm seeing more positions
Yes.
being filled in our schools. Good. Marin County Office.
Funny how it works that way, right?
NCOE also hosted a job fair. Lori Ross, our HR coordinator, did attend that.
Okay.
Although it wasn't heavily attended, it has just, I think that messaging that's out there has indeed helped. But there was a particular day in which Ross Valley was super short subs. And so I was so happy to be back in the classroom. I subbed in a White Hills Special Day class. And then another day, there was not a classified employee as an aide. And so I got to sub as an aide.
That's awesome.
In a classroom, and that was a kindergarten classroom. And, you know, is absolutely amazing and fantastic as Ryan said at the top of the meeting today, of being in the classrooms and being at the school sites. It is truly to see the miracles that occur every moment when it's curriculum and instruction, social emotional support, well-being for our students, our teachers, and our classified employees, and all of our other staff who support all of the growth in all of our students, our administrators. Everybody is stepping in to support where needed. With the substitute shortage, teachers are covering for each other, administrators are jumping in, and it's truly amazing to ensure that our students continue to learn and are able to be in school. And another beautiful part is being on the campuses for all of the activities. It was so fun to be at school sites for their fun runs, and also for the Halloween parades and festivities and activities. And then, as Ryan mentioned, with the White Hill Chorus, the chorus is definitely smaller than it's been over the years, but those students sound amazing. The groups, the 6th grade and then the 7, 8, and also then there was a performance with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students. And then the solo performances were fantastic. And so with Sam Nickel and all of the music team, the other music teachers were there that night, videoing and just being there to support the efforts of their colleague and all of the students. And it was well attended. I would say that every single student had a parent, guardian, or somebody else, siblings, family, grandparents, people from their families in attendance. So it was absolutely fantastic. And then let's see, is there anything else? Chris covered the flood, and I think that's it. So
with that, cabinet rest.
Cabinet rest.
I'm waiting for it. Okay. So moving on to future board topics. Meeting review. Do any trustees have any suggested agenda items that they would like to bring up at this time? Seeing possibly none.
No.
So we will move on to the meeting debrief. Does any trustees want to comment on anything in regard to tonight's meeting?
Very happy to have met my trustee here on my right in person. I think the first time I see him, it must have been 2 years I've not seen you in person.
I know.
So it's like I was barely recognizing you, but I think you're just supposed to be sitting next to me. So glad to have you here in person.
Oh, thank you.
Just want to make sure you know that.
And I'm sorry that I've been able to attend some of the other meetings. It's been very busy professionally for me, so I've not been able to attend. But it's nice to be back in person, and it certainly is nice to be back in the board meeting. So.
Agreed.
It was very refreshing. It was kind of like water on the parched plain to see some of the kids make a presentation. It's kind of like old times.
Agreed.
Thank you for running today's meeting. Even though the gavel
Yes.
is a bit small for you.
Thank you. The gavel is a bit small. We'll bring that up with the budget committee, but there's no budget committee, so I have a feeling this is going to be retaining the gavel.
You have high potential as a board president,
Yes.
just saying.
Right.
You know.
Okay, we'll move to the motion to continue meeting past 10:30, but as such, we have no need, so we do not need to continue the meeting. And with that, I think we can adjourn.
At 8:51 p.m.